Come join us for a Nats Chat hangout at Walters just before the All-Star break Wednesday, July 8th, before the Nationals host the Astros. Come chat about Foster Griffin, Curtis Mead, PJ Poulin, and wish Jeremy, the owner of Walters, a happy birthday. Walters is located just across the street from the ballpark.
Evening. Buyer's remorse. Buy a new car? I'll be moving in. Let's get started.
Sorry, I think there's been a mistake. I bought it from Carvana.
You what?
Yeah, great price. I even have 7 days to love it or return it.
So there's no...
No buyer's remorse. More like buyer's rejoice.
I guess I'll let myself out. Congratulations. I mean it.
Buyer's rejoice. Buy your car today on Carvana.
Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Mikolas ready now from the stretch, kicks and fires, swinging a long drive to left. This one way back, going, and gone. Goodbye. The two-run homer for Yainer Diaz, his fifth of the year. It's now Houston 6 and Washington 1. And Burrows kicks and delivers, swing and a line drive deep to right, down the line, going, goodbye. And this game is tied on a laser beam line drive, 3-run homer for the National League's All-Star starting shortstop. Bang! Zoom goes C.J. Abrams with his 19th home run of the year. Moments ago, the Nationals down by the score of 6-1. It's now the Nationals 6 and the Astros 6. Unbelievable.
Blue ball ready. The kick and the pitch. Swing a high drive, left center field. Matthews back to the track, to the wall, and there it goes. A grand slam for James Wood. Nationals 12, Astros 6. To the back of the red seats in left center, a towering grand slam. Home run number 24, grand slam number 2 for the Nationals All-Star. Wow.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. So we on Monday evening had the 2026 Washington Nationals in a nutshell. Excellent offense and, shall we say, not so good pitching. But the Nats won. They won a wild game, a 12-11 win over the Houston Astros at Nationals Park on Monday evening in game 1 of a 3-game series. This was a game in which the Nats overcame a 6-1 third-inning deficit. The Nats scored 5 runs in the bottom of the third, scored 6 runs in the bottom of the fifth, but allowed a 12-6 sixth-inning lead to get whittled down to 12-11. The Nats allowed 4 runs in the top of the 8th, but the Nats emerged victorious. The Nats in MLB's 2026 regular season now are 47-45 with a run differential of +10. The Astros now are 45-48 with a run differential of -45. We have a suspension update. We'll get to that. And we invite you to join us for a Nats Chat meetup at the home base of Nats Chat Walters Sports Bar, which is right by Nationals Park. The creator, owner, and executive producer of this podcast, Tim Shovers, he's holding a meetup for Nats Chat listeners at Walters this Wednesday at 5 p.m. to pregame for Nats Astros at Nationals Park at 6:45. Join us to talk Nats and enjoy the outstanding food and drink and environment at Walters. Visit waltersdc.com. Good to have you with us on what was, as of Monday, the number 15 podcast in the country on Apple Podcasts in the U.S. baseball category. We thank you very much for that. And Mark, you know, what we had on display on Monday evening by no means was surprising, but it doesn't cease to amaze just how great this Nats offense is. And also, because of the Nats pitching, how unpredictable these Nats games can be. That game got way too close for comfort, given that the Nats scored 12 runs. But wonderful to see the Nats score 12 runs and wonderful to see the Nats win.
If nothing else, Al, we have learned about the 2026 Nationals is that no deficit is insurmountable, but conversely, no lead is ever truly safe. And that's why maybe you felt great at 12-6, but still with 4 innings to go, you weren't sure. I don't think it surprised anybody that it got to 12-11. That's who they are, for better or for worse. Now, look, they have the ability to brush off any kind of early deficit because they have the ability to score runs in bunches like they did, and that was fantastic to see. But man, they're going to make it harrowing the rest of the way. There have been very few times that they've just coasted start to finish, and that's the hallmark of who this team is. There are things about that get you really excited, both in the short term this year and the long term beyond this year. And there are things that really get you nervous about the short term, maybe less so the long term if they can address that at some point in the offseason and moving forward. But this was the season in a nutshell. This is who these guys are, for better or for worse.
With the offense in this game, 12 runs, 13 hits, which were 3 home runs, 2 doubles, and 8 singles, 3 walks, 6 for 13 with runners in scoring position. And what I especially liked about the offense in this game, the Nats' 4 best hitters this season were the 4 guys who led the way. So again, you talk about this game capturing the 2026 Nats in a nutshell. This game so did that, and in multiple ways. But if I asked you who have been the Nats' 4 best hitters this season, you likely would say James Wood, C.J. Abrams, Luis Garcia Jr., and Curtis Mead. And all 4 came up big in this game. James Wood, as the Nats starting DH and number 1 batter, went 1 for 2 with a grand slam, 3 walks, and a stolen base. The grand slam was something. Wood in the Nats' 6-run fifth, a 2-out grand slam to center field for a 12-6 Nats lead. The homer went a projected 446 feet per Statcast. C.J. Abrams, as the Nats starting shortstop and number 4 batter, went 3 for 5 with a 3-run homer, 2 singles, and a stolen base. Abrams in the Nats' 5-run third had a 3-run homer to right field on a 1-2 pitch to tie the game at 6. Curtis Mead, he is the Nats starting third baseman and number 3 batter, 3 for 5 with a solo homer, an RBI double, and an RBI single. And Luis Garcia Jr., he is the Nats starting first baseman and number 2 batter, 1 for 5 with an RBI double. Wood, Abrams, Garcia, Mead. Plenty of other Nats have contributed to the offensive success, but those 4 have been the best 4, and all 4 were big time in this game.
And, we've talked about how valuable it is to have so much depth that you don't have to rely on 1 or 2 all the time. But I'll tell you what, when you can get that out of all of them, that's how you score 12 runs in bunches like that. And it does show you the ability not just to make up a little bit of a deficit, but to explode for 11 unanswered runs in the span of 3 innings that they did that in, and to do it with power. They've had some long sustained rallies this year, but I think we've mentioned this, their ability to score a lot of runs on one swing of the bat is what stands out as being different. And I looked this one up during the game. They've now got 4 guys on the team with 15 or more home runs. We're not even at the All-Star break yet. You go back just to 2022, 4 years ago, only 2 guys hit more than 15 homers for the season. And they've got 4 of them now beyond that point prior to the All-Star break. It makes such a difference when you have that in your back pocket. And it doesn't just have to be 1 or 2 guys, but a bunch of them can do it.
And I want to note this about what we're seeing with the 2026 Nats offense. It's not just a good offense. It's not just a really good offense. It's not just, a nice, cute upstart offense for a team that wasn't expected to be good. No, we're looking at maybe the best offense in the history of the franchise. The Nats, over 92 games, have scored 497 runs and hit 128 home runs. The Washington Nationals / Montreal Expos franchise record for most runs in a regular season is 873 by the 2019 Nats. The Nats in this regular season are on pace for 875 runs. So record 873, Nats on pace for 875. The Nats / Expos franchise record for most homers in a regular season is 231 by the 2019 Nats. The Nats in this regular season on pace for 225 home runs. So record 231, on pace for 225. The best offensive team in franchise history is the 2019 team. That this 2026 team is a legitimate threat to that 2019 team for best offensive team in franchise history is just stunning. I mean, just incredible that we are having this conversation as we are now in the month of July. Imagine if I took a video of this conversation that you and I are having right now and showed it to us back in March or April. What would we have thought back then? And yet here we are having this conversation.
I've made this point before, but I think it bears repeating. At the end of spring training, this looked like a pathetic offense. They did nothing all spring, and that wasn't just my opinion. There were people with the team in prominent roles who were worried about what this offense might actually look like. And then starting right away on opening day at Wrigley Field, they put that all to rest. And as you just outlined, have become not just a really good offense, but a superb offense. What'll be fascinating, and it's going to be a long time till we know the answer to this, but you look at that 19 team, we know the names on that team. Now, some of them were already well established. Some of them were still up and coming, like a Juan Soto and even a Trey Turner to some extent at that point. It would be fascinating to look at the 9 regulars, as you want to call them, that they are using right now. How many of them 3-4 years from now are we going to say are legit big-time MLB players? I think we know that James Wood, C.J. Abrams, but is Luis Garcia going to be that? Is Curtis Mead? Is Keibert Ruiz going to be that? Dalen Lyle, Dylan Cruz? Maybe we'll look back on this lineup and think of it in the same way we did the 2019 team, because those guys, we now know that they were all ultimately really good hitters. Either they were just starting out or they were already established. Let's see what this turns into. You wouldn't think on paper right now that this should stack up to that one, but maybe it will in the end. And this is just the beginning for a lot of these guys.
It is something else. It is not something that anyone saw coming. It is such a credit to the players, such a credit to manager Blake Butera and his coaching staff, such a credit to President of Baseball Operations Paul Taboni and his baseball ops staff. The Nats offense keeps going, and the Nats offense on Monday evening struck again. Al Galdi here to tell you about Window Nation, but before that, the Window Nation look into the future.
Now the pitch. Weimer pulls a line drive fair down the left field line. That will roll into the corner. Tommy Pham goes to get it. Lipscomb around third. Wave for home. He sprints to the plate and scores standing up on Joey Weimer.
Hey, Al Galdi here for Window Nation. If you're using chat to research your next home improvement project, forget the prompts. We've got all the details on a company that you can trust. For replacement windows and doors without the hassle, just look up Window Nation. Window Nation is the real deal. Homeowners across the country love the one-day installation process, especially since Window Nation installers leave your home cleaner than when they started. And this month, you can get 50% off all window styles, plus 0 down, 0 interest, and no payments for 2 years. That's a lot of savings on top of quality windows and doors. 866-90NATION or windownation.com, and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. And did I mention that Window Nation backs each window with a lifetime transferable warranty? That's on top of team members double and triple checking their work from initial measurements to final installation. Reach out to Window Nation to get the windows featured on HGTV's Designing Spaces. And don't forget, this month, you can save 50% on all window styles, plus 0 down, 0 interest, and no payments until 2028. Get a free quote at windownation.com. 866-90NATION or windownation.com. Window Nation, the real deal when it comes to replacement windows and doors. 866-90NATION, windownation.com, and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
Imagine buying your kid a toy only to find the batteries aren't included, or buying furniture but missing the tools to build it. Frustrating, right? Now imagine the exact same feeling, but you're paying way more. That is what buying business software usually feels like. Fragmented, disconnected, and incredibly expensive. Odoo completely changes that. Odoo is a complete, fully integrated business suite where all your apps actually talk to each other. We're talking automated lead routing for your sales team, seamless AI integration, and intuitive point-and-click website builder. It's everything your business needs to scale, saving you time, headaches, and money. Stop piecing your software together. Go to odoo.com. That's odoo.com to learn more.
Queen Carvania stood haloed by the morning sun, An army hung on her every word.
My champions, I have sold my chariot on Carvana. 'Twas a lovely SUV, an inexplicably queenly offer. They're even coming to the castle to collect it. Tonight, we feast! An offer you can feast on. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
And now the pitch. Wade hits a line drive caught by Garcia. That's going to be a double play at first. Louis with a leaping catch. Walker hung out to dry. All Garcia had to do was take 2 steps back to the bag. And instead of an extra base hit, maybe an RBI, it's an inning-ending line drive double play. We're halfway through, middle of the 5th. Nationals 6, Houston 6.
So the Nats starting pitcher in this 12-11 win over the Astros at Nationals Park on Monday evening was Miles Mikolas, as we on Monday at last got at least some news on the 2 Nats who received suspensions for their roles in the benches and bullpens clearing incident in the Nats 8-1 win at the Boston Red Sox this past Tuesday night. We on Monday evening learned that MLB had reduced the 7-game suspension of Nats starting pitcher Cade Cavalli from 7 games to 5 games off him appealing the suspension. He started serving the suspension on Monday evening, so he could be the Nats starting pitcher for their final game before the All-Star break if the Nats won. That game is Nats home to the New York Yankees this Sunday afternoon at 1:35. No word yet on the result of the appeal of Miles Mikolas. He was the Nats starting pitcher on Monday evening. He allowed 7 runs in 6 innings, and yet the Nats won. And he got the win, which is just hysterical. 9 hits, which were 2 home runs, a double, and 6 singles, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, 99 pitches, 63 strikes, 36 balls. But Miles Mikolas, 7 runs in 6 innings, and yet he was our winning pitcher at Nationals Park on Monday evening.
The first pitcher, Al, in Nationals history to give up 7 runs and still earn the win. And how about that for making history? And I know that stat matters more to you than anything else that he did in this game. Here's what I'm just going to say about this. He did not pitch well, obviously. But I think there's something to be said for this. And it's very particular for anybody who's pitching for this Nationals team. And that is this. Even if you give up 6 early runs like he did, there's an easy way to look at that and say, well, this one's over. I'm either going to get pulled early or they may have to ask me to wear it for the team and stay out there. And yes, they kind of asked him to wear it, but because he then limited the damage after that and he gave 1 more run before he departed after the 6th, it at least kept the deficit somewhat manageable. This is a lineup that can make up a 5 or 6 run deficit. We have seen that. And so I think it actually does have to change the mindset of these starters. And I think Mikolas is a good example of it. Zach Littell's a good example of this as well, that it's almost like if you were pitching at Coors Field and you have to like up the bar to a different level of what's an acceptable start. Yeah, you want to only give up 2-3 runs. But even if you give up 4, 5, 6, or in this case, even 7, don't let off the gas. Still keep going. If you can put up a couple of zeros after that, if you can provide some length and buy some time for this explosive lineup to come back, you may turn out to be okay in the end. If he just falls apart after that and has to be pulled in the 3rd or 4th inning, they're not going to win this game because they didn't have the arms to get them through the rest of this night. So this is not trying to make it out like he had a good start. He didn't. But I think on this team, you do have to have a little different mindset and say, even if I give up 6 early, just keep going. Try to muddle your way through a few more innings, get as far as you can, and buy some time for the lineup to come back and bail you out.
He has bad starts. He doesn't necessarily have blow-up starts. Like, he'll at least give you some length. So it's not, 6 runs in 2 innings. It's 6 runs in 5 innings, or in this case, 7 runs in 6 innings. I think what is, though, discouraging is that for a while, Miles Mikolas looked like he had been fixed, or at least had improved significantly. He certainly was pitching a lot better than he had been earlier in the season. But lately, he has reverted to what he was doing in those initial weeks of the regular season here. And his numbers are brutal. I mean, Mikolas now 19 games, including 8 starts. His ERA is at 5.78. His whip is 133. You know, the whip actually isn't that bad. His whip is better than Cade Cavalli's whip of 138. But the problem is the home run. Mikolas over 90 and a third innings has allowed 20 home runs. Cavalli, for comparison's sake, just 8 home runs. And that has been the thing. It's not like Mikolas necessarily is like walking the ballpark or even always giving up a bunch of hits, but he gives up homers, gave up 2 more in this game. It's
giving up home runs and not being able to strike out hitters, to not be able to get yourself out of a jam with swing and miss. And he doesn't have that, and Zach Littell doesn't have that either. When we look back to that month of May that was so good for the team, and we said, well, what's changed? What's the difference? And I said, honestly, in a lot of ways, the most significant development, not in the bigger picture, but for right now, and what allowed them to get over 500 and put themselves in a wild card race, was the fact that Mikolas and Littell, who were awful in April, were able to now go out there and give their team a chance. And so now it was every 5 games you felt like your starter was giving you a chance, as opposed to 2 out of the 5 were guaranteed losses. Well, both of them are starting to revert back to that earlier form, and that is troubling. Now, the offense has been so good that it's made up for it, and they both had here and there some better outings, but both of them are still very prone to the home run. And I think that more than anything, that and their inability to get swings and misses, get out of jams on their own. I think, I could be wrong, I think 10 runs that the team gave up in this game came with 2 outs, and many of them with 2 strikes and 2 outs. They can't finish hitters, and that's not just them. It's a lot of guys on this team, and that's why they're not quite at that same level. When it seemed like they had gotten things on track a month ago or so, they've reverted back by their inability to just get themselves out of trouble.
So Cavalli's suspension reduced from 7 games to 5 games. Good to see that. I think most of us anticipated that. Any idea why we haven't yet heard about the Mikolas appeal regarding his 5-game suspension?
Well, I'll also say, unless I missed this, I didn't hear anything about the Red Sox appeals either, Contreras and Eaton. So I don't know the process that MLB uses. Perhaps they only handle one of these a day or a few a day, and it takes a while to make the decision. I don't know. It's also possible, I heard this, I don't know if it's official, but that they won't make a team with 2 pitchers like this. They wouldn't necessarily make them happen at the same time. Like, there is at least a little bit of understanding like that. That's not fair to a team. I don't know that for a fact, so don't quote me, but maybe that's something to do with it. I could certainly see on Tuesday MLB coming out and making a decision. Mikolas has already pitched, and now he will be suspended. Whether that's the full 5 games or less than that, we'll see. I'll just say, when it's all said and done, I think we'll understand what was going on, and I think it will be clear that the Nats had a pretty good idea how this was going to play out, and when they flip-flopped the 2 of them, Cavalli and Mikolas, when they had Cavalli make that start on Sunday, I think they at least had an inkling that a ruling would come on Monday, and we're hoping it would be reduced to 5 games, because that does, as you said, allow for the possibility for him to come back and start Sunday against the Yankees. Now, they may decide he needs a long all-star break. We're watching his innings anyways this year. He's not going to pitch that game. That's possible. I don't know. But it at least gives them that option if they want to pitch him on Sunday. If Mikolas is suspended, they are going to need somebody to start the game on Saturday. So we'll see if they call somebody up. We'll see if they try the bullpen game. I don't know. But I'm guessing that the Nationals have already calculated this all out of how they expect this to go. And it may have been by design that then he was able to pitch this game, could now in theory serve his suspension, and that takes him up through the All-Star break.
So interesting. So you think the Nats may have been tipped off to what the rulings for the appeals would be before the rulings became public?
I don't know if that's tipped off or at least had a good sense of how it would go. And I think, we discussed from the very beginning, when MLB suspends starting pitchers, there's a calculation to their math on this. When they gave Cavalli 7 games, that to me said, we expect him to appeal, and he may get a game or 2 knocked off of that, but we're still going to make sure he takes at least 5 games, because that prevents him from 1 start, which is what Saturday would be. So I think the Nats maybe had a hunch that that's how it would go, and they worked it out so that it's maybe the least amount of damage to them. In Mikolas' case, we'll see. If they reduce that suspension, then it's like he's not really missing a start after all. So maybe it will be reduced, maybe it won't. I think we'll probably find out more about that on Tuesday, but I don't think they were, officially told, here's what's going to happen. But I'm sure they knew when decisions would be made. And I'm guessing, just based on history and precedent, they probably had a good reason to believe that Cavalli's would be reduced to 5.
It is kind of silly when you think about it. Like, if you want Cavalli truly to serve a 5-game suspension, give him a 5-game suspension. That's what he gets. He starts serving it, and we don't dance this dance for coming up on a week plus since the incident. The incident happened last Tuesday night, June 30th. Here we are a full week later, and this whole thing still has not been resolved. I mean, it's a little silly that it takes this long to sort all of this out.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I'll just say this is all collectively bargained. So this is between the commissioner's office and the players' union on behalf of the players, and they have earned the right to appeal any suspension, and they almost always do. And in doing so, can game the system a little bit, as I think we're seeing the Nationals do right now.
In seeing how this process goes, you can see why there are some of the labor problems that MLB and the MLBPA have. I mean, look how tedious and laborious and drawn out this entire ordeal has become.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Now the pitch. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. Strong inning for Cole Henry. 2 strikeouts in a 1-2-3 inning. Top 3 in the Houston batting order.
2 Nats relievers in this 12-11 win over the Astros at Nationals Park on Monday evening combined to allow 4 runs in 3 innings. Cole Henry is back, and he had quite the Jekyll and Hyde outing. He allowed 4 runs in 1 2/3 innings. Now, he tossed a perfect top of the 7th with 2 swinging strikeouts. Looked great. But then he, in the top of the 8th, allowed 4 runs, including giving up a 2-out, 3-run homer by Bryce Matthews to left field to cut the Nats' lead to 12-11, despite Henry having had Matthews down in the count at 1.12. Yet another instance of a Nats reliever not putting a batter away, and the ultimate result of the plate appearance being a negative result for the Nats. The Nats on Monday afternoon announced having recalled Henry from AAA Rochester. Clayton Beeter then came into the game, and he was good. He tossed 1 1/3 perfect innings for a 4-out save. Clayton Beeter, by the way, your leader in saves for the Nats now at 7. He is 7 for 11, number 1 on the Nats in saves, as the Nats have a whopping 10 players each with at least 1 save. But what we saw with Cole Henry is something that we have seen, and we have talked about this. Nats reliever comes into the game. His initial inning looks good. Blake Butera tries to get a little length out of the guy. That second inning, not so good.
This is a recurring pattern, and just over the last week, I feel like there's at least 4 instances of this, of somebody coming in out of the pen, having a clean first inning, being sent back for a second inning, and it goes really south on them. And I asked Butera after the game how much of that decision to send Henry back out there for the 8th was based on believing that he could give them 2 quality innings versus who they had available out of the bullpen. And his answer essentially was saying that they didn't really have anybody else, or he felt like they were really slim on options in the bullpen.
We were pretty slim in the bullpen tonight, given the last few days against the Pirates, and especially yesterday with how many arms did he use, with Cade coming out early with the heat. So we were down some arms tonight and needed to get some length out of Cole. His first inning was awesome. Obviously, the second one looked like he ran out of gas a little bit there.
Now, I'm looking back at my scorebook the last few days. It seems to me that Orlando Ribalta and P.J. Poulin should have been available. Ribalta threw 13 pitches, Poulin threw 14 pitches on Sunday. Unless there's something going on, and I'm not always privy to all the information of how guys feel and who's available or not, it seems to me either one of them would have been available to come back on Monday. Neither of them pitched Saturday. They both pitched Friday. So that's twice in the last 4 days they pitched. You tell me they couldn't go 3 and 5. Maybe they're feeling something, maybe not. What I don't like, we'll start with Henry, who, by the way, was optioned back to AAA after the game, after throwing 44 pitches in this one. So yet again, putting a guy out there, throwing him as much as you possibly can, ship him out, bring somebody else in the next day. We saw Cole Henry last year, and there were times that he looked like a good late inning option, and generally as a one-inning guy. Now, this new administration, it's pretty clear that they don't view him that way. They don't seem to view him as a top high-leverage late-inning guy, and they seem to view him as a multi-inning guy. So far, the evidence suggests that he is not effective when throwing 30, 40, bordering on 50 pitches. And so at some point, don't you have to say to yourself, that's not maximizing who he is. That's not putting him in the best spot to have success. And I don't think he's the only one. We've seen this with others as well. And so I get that you are not getting a lot of length out of your starters, and that plays into this. But it seems to me that if you just used several of these relievers in shorter stints, one inning at a time, they'd be available to come back sooner, as opposed to a situation like they faced on Monday where several guys are unavailable because they had thrown 40, 50 pitches out of the bullpen a few days earlier, and that knocks them out for several days. And that's why they send Henry back down, because now he wouldn't be available. It's why they send Eddie Jean back down after his debut, because he wasn't going to be available for several days. Why not just use a lot of these guys in one-inning stints, and that allows them to be ready to come back sooner instead of having to sit out for multiple days? If they were effective for multiple innings, I get it. But outside of Brad Lord, I'm not sure who we've seen that has really shown they can be effective more than one inning at a time.
No, and a lot of these guys aren't even effective at one inning at a time. I mean, I think, though, the thing with this game is you're up 12-7 going into the eighth. Henry just looked really good in the top of the seventh. Like, it's not some monumental ask to say, hey, Cole, who used to be a starting pitcher, can you give us one more inning? Like, I get the mentality from Butera in that spot. You don't expect the guy to unravel, but that's what happened. And that's what does tend to happen with these Nats relievers. They're not just bad when they're bad. They're horrible when they're bad. Like, they really just fall off a cliff. And that's what you see, even not just from outing to outing, but from inning to inning, as we saw with Henry in this game. He was lights out in the top of the seventh, and he really struggled in that top of the eighth. But, 12-7, a 5-run lead, that's a pseudo blowout at that point. I mean, geez, you can't just get through the rest of the game with one more pitcher. That's really frustrating from a Nat standpoint. That's got to drive Butera crazy that he can't have one guy just finish out the game in a spot like that. That he even had to go to Clayton Beeter is unfortunate.
Yes, and you're 100% right about that, and any manager should be frustrated by that situation. And you don't have to have the best bullpen in the world, just a halfway decent one. You should feel totally comfortable with a 5-run lead and trying to use up as few guys as possible to finish that game. But here's the thing. At some point, you have to acknowledge what you have, and you have to have seen enough evidence of what you have. And just like I was talking earlier, where like the team starters maybe have to have a different mindset and approach, knowing how good the offense is, I think if you're Butera and Paul Taboni and everybody else who makes these decisions, you have to treat this bullpen differently, because they're not proving that they can just treat a 5-run lead as if it's a sure thing. It's kind of like you had games at Coors Field. There's always this thought of, if you're the Rockies or even if you're the opposing team coming in, if you've got a 5-run lead, a 6-run lead late, use your closer. You've got to think of 5 runs as like 2 runs, because the scale is different there. Runs are going to be scored in bunches. It's not as easy. I feel like, unfortunately, because of what this bullpen is and what they've proven themselves to be, you have to set the bar differently. And yes, even a 5-run lead, I think you have to be more aggressive in your managing and pull a guy at the first sign of trouble, go to your closer, even if it's not a true save situation because they have a bigger lead. To me, I think you almost have to view it that way.
Yeah, and they don't have a closer. I mean, that's the other problem. Like, who is the closer? I don't know. I guess Beeter, but even he doesn't really strike you as necessarily being like the official closer. By the way, Eddie Jean on Sunday, Cole Henry on Monday. What about this guy, Matt Crook, who the Nats just claimed off waivers from the Athletics? Why Jean Sunday, Henry Monday? Where's Crook? I thought we were supposed to see Crook soon.
I've asked this question and nobody's been able to give me a great answer about it. I think it's essentially this. When you claim a player like that on waivers, they have some time before they're required to report. I don't know if it's 72 hours. I mean, like if you're optioned to AAA, you're allotted 72 hours before you have to actually physically be there. There may be something along those lines here. And so they said, okay, we're going to hold off on that and we're going to bring in some other arms just for a day. I'm going to guess we'll see him on Tuesday, but I can't tell you that with any authority that that's absolutely happening. You know, where's he been? I guess it's a long trip by rail from Sacramento to D.C. It takes 3 days to cross the country by rail or horseback or buggy, whatever it is. It's following the Oregon Trail in reverse to get here. I don't know, but I guess you're allowed to wait. It doesn't have to happen immediately. So perhaps we will finally see Crook on Tuesday.
Well, the Nats are going to be in Sacramento right after the All-Star break. Maybe Crook should have just stayed out there and could have joined the ball club at that point. But we shall see if Crook gets a look here in the coming days with this Nats bullpen. Game 2 for the Nats against the Astros at Nationals Park Tuesday evening at 6:45. The Nats have listed Andrew Alvarez as their probable starting pitcher for the game. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. Check out our website too, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Here's the set. Runners lead first and second. Burrows the pitch. Swinging a line drive to the left field line. Trouble if it's fair. It is. And down rolling all the way into the corner. Nunez around third will score. Wade up with the ball. Gets it in along the left field line. A shoe make. So Wood is held at third by third base coach Victor Estevez. It's a double for Luis Garcia Jr. And another run batted in, his 65th of the year. The Nationals have a run home. Runners on second and third with nobody out. It's now the Astros 6 and the Nationals 2.